For more on this, I'm now joined from the UK by James Summers, lecturer in law at Lancaster University. Hello, thank you very much indeed for your time. So now that this independence referendum has taken place and the yes camp came out on top, what options does Madrid have now to stop the region from declaring independence?
Well, this is actually a bit of a numbers game. The yes camp didn't necessarily come out on top. They got 90% of the vote, but the turnout was about 43%. Now, altogether, you can say that about 38% of Catalans voted for independence. And for the Spanish government, they may see that, well, actually, that if you look at the population overall, the majority did not vote for independence. So it's a question of which figures, in a sense, you use. The Catalan nationalists would say that 90% is a very good result. That's good enough for them. The Spanish government might pour caution on that and say that, well, actually, this is only 38%. This isn't a majority of the population as a whole.
So Catalonia didn't stipulate how many people should take part for this referendum to be valid?
No, they didn't, and that's part of the point. They want to have a headline figure that 90% of voters voted for independence without the qualification of actually how many people voted. So people who wouldn't want to see Catalonia independent tended not to vote rather than to vote. Now, of course, there's a whole load of ambiguity over this because a lot of ballot boxes were taken away and people were prevented from voting. So a low turnout might be because people didn't support independence, but equally it may be because they supported independence but were prevented from voting. So the Catalonian government would say that actually there's a lot of people who weren't able to vote, and if we take them into account, then we would have that majority. But it's all rather sort of debatable.
But was Madrid's response, the fact that police were actually preventing people from voting, was that legal in itself? I mean, we today have the UN's human rights chief calling on Spain's government to launch an investigation into these acts of violence.
Mm-hmm. The vote itself is unconstitutional. So Spain would argue that it is simply upholding the law. Now, whether it used proportionate force to do that, that is a question which I think will play out, for example, before the European Court of Human Rights. So this is something that will later on be investigated. Of course, the question is how people perceive it now. Does this give the Catalan national movement extra momentum? Does this mean that the Catalan government really sees no alternative now but to press ahead with a unilateral declaration of independence? Now, they would see that they have a vote in support. Their supporters, after the bloody clashes with police, probably are in no mood for backing down. So, in a sense, the fact that such a forceful response has been made by the Spanish police gives extra momentum to pushing this crisis ever deeper. The Catalan government has to take, in a sense, the next step up rather than seek any sort of compromise.
But if they do go ahead and declare independence, because of what Spain's constitutional court said, that declaration would have no legal force, right? And what about in the eyes of the EU? Would it mean anything? The legality of a declaration of independence was actually looked at by the International Court of Justice a few years ago when Kosovo's independence declaration was brought before it. And they said that essentially there's nothing to stop people declaring it, but in essence it has no legal effect. So if Catalonia declares independence, Spain won't recognise it, and there'll be no obligation on any other state or organisation to recognise it either. It will be, in essence, a political statement. And the question is then whether the Catalan government can turn that into a reality, whether they can actually assert control over Catalonia and exclude Spain, so that Spain effectively loses control of Catalonia. And ultimately, and again, this is not an issue of 1 or 2 days or a vote or a declaration. What the Catalan government has to show, if it wants to establish a state, is that essentially that Spain has lost control of Catalonia and that it will be unable to regain it. All right, thank you very much indeed for your time and your analysis. James Summers joining us there from the UK.